Is it okay to say wow, folks? I mean, wow. What a road trip for your Dallas Stars. Welcome into a post-game edition of Spits and Suds. I'm Gavin Spittle flying solo, but we had to get on the microphone tonight and we had to talk about this Stars road trip. A perfect 3 for 3, picking up 6 points and off to their best 9-game start on the road in the history of the franchise. And they finished it off and put a stamp in style, winning tonight by the score of 8-3 over the Minnesota Wild. I mean, where do we start? 16 goals in the last 3 games for your Dallas Stars. And, I was thinking before the game, dates back to 2019, and we quickly forget. But when these two are on the same ice, it has to be brought up. Back in 2019, remember, a lot of us were wondering, should we sign Matt Zuccarello, who came over at the trade deadline and performed so well, like fit in perfect with the Dallas Stars? And he ended up going to Minnesota, and along comes Joe Pavelski. And Zuccarello's put up, he leads the team in many categories for the Wild. But I think we'd all agree that Joe Pavelski was the better signing of the two. So that was something I thought of early. Clearly, you can see that these two teams are very chippy with each other, and we'll get into that in just a couple of moments. So, Stars play again on Tuesday against the Coyotes back at home. So another division matchup. And the Yotes have been playing really well this year, actually, for a rebuilding team. So we talk about the Stars and how they can get off to a fast start. And Sean and I have talked on previous Spits and Suds that this is a massive issue for the Stars, that they play catch up, and it seems as though it takes for a while to get the legs going. Well, not tonight, as the Stars draw basically on the first shift of the game. Joe Pavelski would be the second shift, actually. Joe Pavelski comes on the ice, draws an interference call, and gets the rebound off a slap shot off the point. Started with Jamie Benn on the power play. And this is what I love about doing this podcast. I love rewinding and saying, okay, I understand the primary assist and I understand who scored the goal, but how did it start? And one of the things that the Stars have struggled on, that they were so good last year, and that's why they were one of the better power play teams last year, is winning that initial draw and winning the draws in the offensive zone to get the power play set up early. They did that tonight. Jamie Benn with a nice clean win, back to the point. Joe Pavelski off the rebound. All of a sudden, it is 1-0 Stars. So the quick start happened tonight, and I think pretty much, and this is the end of a 3-game road trip, and these are the games where you say, well, could the legs get tired? Because this was kind of a grinder of a road trip, but they didn't seem to get tired throughout the night. I will say, one of the things that I was surprised at, and I continue to be surprised at, is the absence of Ty Dellandrea in the lineup. That's not a bad thing, because when you have people like Joel Hanley and Ty Dellandrea as healthy scratches, you have a lot of depth. And the Stars need that depth because they can't really call up someone from the minors unless they're going to be gone for a while because they're up against the cap. So having Ty Dellandrea ready to go, and, that's very important. But I would like to see him going, because I hearken back to the Boston game. And in that Boston game, I thought him and Wyatt Johnston were two of the best Stars on the ice. So I don't understand the consecutive healthy scratches. Maybe it had to do with Sam Steele going back to Minnesota, wanted to get him another game there. But I would like to see Ty Dellandrea back in the lineup soon. So from there, it was just the Stars. Basically, every single time the Wild tried to get something going, the Stars responded. We talk about the power play. I mean, you want to talk about getting back and improving your percentages and going up from 29th in the league in power play percentage. Well, 5 for 8 on the power play will certainly do that. Man, was that impressive. In fact, 2 goals on shorthanded opportunities. So 7 special team goals tonight. 7 out of your 8 goals were scored on special teams tonight. That is pretty impressive. Radek Faksa was impressive tonight, scoring a shorthanded goal. Now, Marc-Andre Fleury, that goal that Faksa scored and maybe another goal, you look and how rare is it that your opposing goalie is going to stay in for all 8 goals? But that was the case tonight. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but Marc-Andre Fleury, I thought was really good tonight. I thought the Stars could have put up 10 or 11 goals. They continued to hurt that Minnesota defense, which is struggling this year, and a Minnesota team which is, struggling in general. And now they go off to Europe to play. So Dean Evason's been the coach there for 4 years. We just saw Jay Woodcroft get the boot in Edmonton. And I wonder if there'll be some close eyes on Minnesota as far as a head coaching decision. But from a defensive standpoint, the Stars took advantage, and you can see all the goals. If you go back and watch the highlights of tonight, you're going to see in tight goals. And that's when the Stars are at their best, not necessarily shooting from the outside, but go back if you can and see how many of those Stars goals were off rebounds or just screens in front of the net or creating havoc in front of Marc-Andre Fleury. And the scouting report was in because you could see on a lot of these breakaways, and there were too many breakaways if you're a Minnesota Wild fan. It was unreal how often the Stars were getting behind the Minnesota defense. It reminded me back in the Lindy Ruff days of the Dallas Stars were amazing offensively, but you'd have 1 or 2 breakouts against your team a game where you're like, what happened there? So just so many defensive breakdowns tonight by the Wild. Good for Stars and good for the Stars fans. I thought, the shots on net were consistent and they were low and they were creating rebound opportunities. We talked on previous podcasts that I know it seems simple, but how many times are the Stars going to shoot? We talked to both Craig and Sean about this. How many times are the Stars going to try to get that perfect goal, try to go top shelf, and they just keep hitting the glass and, just going above the net or missing the net to the right or left? Not tonight, because those shots in tight, just the accuracy percentage goes way up. Here's a massive stat for you tonight.
Imagine you're looking at a balancing scale with everything you do for other people on one side and everything you do for yourself on the other side. If it isn't balanced, maybe it's time to spend a little more time on you. And therapy is a great place to start. BetterHelp connects you with a licensed therapist online who can help you find that balance and stick to it. Visit BetterHelp.com/positive to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp.com/positive.
This holiday season, make your journey memorable with Travel Centers of America. Visit our one-stop shop for all your holiday travel needs. Fuel up, get snacks, and dine at one of our full-service restaurants. Hit the road with peace of mind knowing we've got you covered. Travel Centers of America.
The Stars had a 61% face-off percentage in the first. That number actually went up throughout the game, finished with a 65% to 34.9% win rate in the penalty circle. That's how you win games. You can look at shots on net and they won 37-26, but puck possession, it was all Dallas Stars tonight. Yes, they did make a couple of mistakes. Lundqvist, who I thought actually played really good. I actually think Nils Lundqvist, I love his aggressiveness. I love him on the second power play unit. And that second power play unit, which features Sagan as well as Wyatt Johnston and Matt Duchene, they've energized this power play. So the second unit is really, really clicking as far as power plays for the Stars. But, Lundqvist makes a needless turnover, and Duchene, who we'll talk about, scores for the Wild at a close-up backhand, and the Wild actually cut the lead to 2-1. And the Stars, just continued. They never let the Wild back in the game, although there were a couple of times that you saw, the Wild pull within two, pull within one early, but it was really all Stars. 17-26, right off the bat in the second period, Duchene doing what he's doing to Wyatt Johnston. Fleury was playing great, but just the puck handling ability of Matt Duchene is so much fun to watch. He's just in such control. And if there is an offense that Matt Duchene seems to feel comfortable with, has a high comfort level, it's a Pete DeBoer offense, because this is a Matt Duchene that we saw in his early days as far as Ottawa, and how he's playing, and the puck control, and the confidence, and the ability to go into boards. What I like about Matt Duchene this year that haven't really seen in the past, he's add a little bit of his edge to the game where he's winning in the corners, just a little bit of physicality. When you see Matt Duchene and you think of the scoring ability, that lower body strength is something that I never really thought of as far as Matt Duchene, but he's winning the puck battles in the corner, and with his puck possession and his eyes, he's finding that extra pass, which is paying major dividends. So one of the stories that will come out of this was Duchene, who scored earlier for the Minnesota Wild, late in the second period, boarding on Thomas Harley. And that was a 5-minute major and a 10-minute misconduct. We got to thank the NHL, because I love this rule where a 5-minute major, they can review and they can either lower the penalty, or they can add a game misconduct or take away a game misconduct. I really, really like what the NHL does. So, wasn't intentional. I think the Minnesota Wild are a very physical team. I think that's how Coach Dean Evison likes his team to play, but it was just a bad check. And you could see the frustration of Duchene. I think he was frustrated that play caused him to get kicked out of the game. And you could see it from the Dallas Stars as well, where they went in and, they got to protect the player, but at the same time, I don't think that, it was a check that went bad. Let's just leave it at that. So it'll be interesting to see. I think it's an automatic hearing from the league when it's a 10-minute game misconduct, but I would expect a fine, but I would be surprised if Duchene is suspended in that, but you can expect a fine on that. So best road start in Dallas Stars history. After 9 games, 7-1-1, and now they come back for some home cooking. They got the Coyotes, and then a little bit of a break, and then they have the Colorado Avalanche, who are also streaking. So it's going to be interesting to see how they do with some home cooking. But we can get particular, and we can look at the mistakes, and we have criticized the power play, and we have criticized Mason Marchment, and we have done, some other, criticism here and there as far as, about this Dallas Stars team and, how they can improve. But at the same time, when your team is off to that kind of start, it's okay to nitpick, but let's not make a big deal. This is a very, very good team. And to improve while at the same time winning, that's the best part. To be 10-3-1, knowing that you have to improve. Pete DeBoer said something very interesting the other night prior to the Winnipeg game. He talked about the team knowing that they're better going into games. And that's one thing, but they have to play better. And I think that was sending a message to the Stars that, you have the ability to beat any team, but you have to show it, and you cannot fall behind like they have been and all of a sudden trying to play catch up. So I think that was a really nice message by Pete DeBoer, and it was subtle, and it was said after a win in Columbus. So it's not like he's calling his troops out, but I think they know that. And I think you've seen kind of a different Stars team. I thought they played well against Winnipeg. We have to understand Winnipeg, a division rival. They've been playing really well. The winner of that game was going to go first in the Central. So that was a tough game to go into Winnipeg and win with your backup goalie, Scott Wedgwood, playing, who, by the way, played excellent against one of the best goalies in the league in Connor Hellebuck. So Winnipeg knew the importance of that game, and the Stars still came out with a 3-2 victory. Then to go on and face another division foe in Minnesota and putting up 8 goals and 16 goals over the past 3 games, that's just terrific. And so this Star team is hitting on a lot of cylinders. And, like I said, led by Matt Duchene.
It's the first ever NBA in-season tournament. All 30 teams going for one brand new trophy.
The stakes are the highest.
Only 8 teams advance from the group stages. Then it's down to single elimination.
It's win or go home.
The last 4 standing will battle it out in Las Vegas, baby. They're going to go all in on the hardwood for season-long bragging rights in the first ever NBA Cup. Hope everyone's feeling lucky. The NBA in-season tournament begins November 3rd on ABC, ESPN, and TNT.
This episode is brought to you by L'Oreal Paris Everpure Hair Care and their Bond Repair System. If you style or color your hair, you know how damaging it can be. Why pay for overpriced Bond Repair products, you know the ones, when you can get the same results for 1/3 of the price with Everpure Bond Repair? If you want smoother, stronger, softer hair, this is the dupe for you. Put this dupe to the test. Buy it now at l'orealparisusa.com/bond repair.
And I know a lot of people will say, well, what about the first line? But, Jason Robertson with 2 goals tonight. So, I think it's coming. And that's the best part of this Stars team is depth. And we've talked about that from day one. It takes the pressure off the first line. And one thing that I talked about with Sean the other day is when you have the best defenseman and some of the best defensive forwards trying to shut down that Stars first line, that opens up that Sagan-Duchene line and Marchment to do some great things. So when you have a player like Duchene with 13 games played, 11 points, a +5, now coaches are going to have to go in and say, we have to account for this second line. So what do they have to do? They have to change up their defensive pairings. They might have to match up some more defensive-minded forwards against that second line. That opens up the first line for the Dallas Stars. So that's what we're talking about. And we can't forget about that fourth line tonight. That fourth line started the game in that first period and forced some penalties, created some opportunities. Smith was excellent tonight. I think Faksa, it's great to see him get on the scoreboard, and I think he's played really well. And that I have not been the biggest Radek Faksa guy. I love how he plays every game when he can. It's just that contract that bugs me. But now it's okay because he's on that fourth line. And I think, he's not asked to do as much, not as much pressure. But that fourth line can score this year. It's not just a checking line. It can score. So you have 4 lines that can put pucks in the net. That is something that teams have to account for. And I think that's going to pay dividends, especially as the season moves along. Not to mention, once again, you have players like Ty Dellandrea, as healthy scratches who can come in off the bench and provide a lot of energy for the Dallas Stars. So lots of positives tonight for the Dallas Stars, and really, really good on this road trip. That's what it's all about. And that, it's so great. I did want to welcome Rudy tonight. Rudy contacted me on Twitter and said he's at CU Cuz Rudy. And he says that CUHZRUDY. Hey, Spittle, really trying to get into NHL this year, and in particular the Stars, obviously. Where can I tune in to hear more info on the stats and hockey in general? And so we said, hey, tune into Spits and Suds. And he didn't know about the podcast. So we keep saying, let your friends know about the Spits and Suds podcast if they're getting into hockey. I'll say this. I want hockey to be all inclusive in DFW. Stars fans, you are absolutely amazing. It was a highlight that you sold out the lower bowl. It's amazing when I see a guy like Matt Day, who was nice enough, and he's a Spits and Suds listener, to come down in between periods, and we had a great hang. And he's talking about, with him and his lovely lady, how they stay in separate seats sometimes because they don't want to give up their season tickets, but they love going to the games together. Just stories like that. And Matt has battled cancer. And, he was so proud to say he only missed, I think, like 3 or 5 Stars games, and he's been to over 1,000. That's amazing. And that's what I love about you diehard Stars fans. But I'll say this, open it up to other Stars fans, because that's how we grow this game. And that's why we created Spits and Suds. So you might hear myself or Sean throw out stats, or you might hear us every once in a while, or me particularly, say, well, let's get into that. What does that mean? I might know the answer, but I'm trying to simplify the game. I know a lot of you Stars fans might already know, how important time on ice is. A lot of analytic people don't believe in plus minus as far as an advanced metric to look at. I actually like time on ice as far as plus minus, because if good things happen when you're on ice, that means your line's clicking, and that means you're doing the right things. So I do look at that as a metric. So we'll throw out things every once in a while because we want to be inclusive as far as the great game. And hopefully you'll understand that. And hopefully you can find other Stars fans or other NHL fans that you can bring into the Spits and Suds podcast, because together we want to grow this thing. We want to make it a factor in, as far as talking hockey, because as you can see, we're upping the episodes because you guys are calling for it.
Bosch tools are built for workers. Bosch's powerful hammer drill has kickback control to help work go more smoothly when you need it. The 2-in-1 impact driver and wrench quickly changes between bits and sockets, so you only need one tool instead of 2. And the X-Lock grinder switches wheels up to 5 times faster than standard grinders. Bosch tools take care of the job and you. Bosch tools, what hard workers deserve. Learn more at BoschTools.com.
Also wanted to point out tonight, as I mentioned earlier, Jay Woodcroft, despite winning against Seattle, a good team, he got fired, replaced by Chris Knobloch. And it's something interesting. So Jay Woodcroft, I hope, gets another coaching opportunity. 79, 41, and 13 in 133 regular season games. So he coached for 3 seasons. He was 14 and 14 in the Stanley Cup playoffs, replaced former Stars coach Dave Tippett, and he was formerly the coach of Bakersfield for Edmonton. So, I think what's interesting in this is that Edmonton got bounced in the playoffs by the eventual Stanley Cup champions. So, got bounced the first time around under Jay Woodcroft by Colorado. Colorado goes on to win the Stanley Cup. Then this past year, bounced by Vegas. They go on to win the Stanley Cup. I understand they weren't clicking. They're 3-9-1, and you can't fire the players. You cannot fire Connor McDavid. You cannot fire Leon Draisaitl, and you have to keep those players happy. But I hope Jay Woodcroft gets another shot, because I think he deserves another shot. So Chris Knobloch gets hired, and this is fascinating, and I think this is part of modern day athletics. So Chris Knobloch, you're thinking off to a 3-9-1 start. It's time to bring in someone with veteran coaching experience to kind of who knows how to turn this around. Chris Knobloch has never coached in the NHL. He was coaching Hartford of the AHL this year. So he's making the move, coached Hartford this weekend, and now he's making the move out to Edmonton. But here's why. He coached Connor McDavid for 3 seasons with Erie of the Ontario Hockey League. In that time, Connor McDavid had 285 points, granted it's juniors, 97 goals, 188 assists in 166 games. So obviously there's a familiarity there. And I think they want to bring someone in after Dave Tippett, after Jay Woodcroft, that Connor McDavid feels comfortable with. And let's see how Chris Knobloch does. So they also brought an interesting move. They brought in a assistant coach with a lot of familiarity. Hang on one second. Let's see. Yeah, they brought in Lowe. So former Edmonton Oiler, and he'll be the assistant coach. So changes in Edmonton. Let's see if that pans out, because I actually thought Edmonton was going to be a playoff contender this year, and you knew the coaching change was going to happen. And so I just wanted to get that tidbit in. We'll have lots of Spits and Suds this week. We'll talk to Luds. We'll talk to Sean Shapiro. Also, we're going to book more interviews. And once again, it's due to your feedback. Got a lot of positive feedback on the Jeff K interview and behind the scenes, as far as what's it like to be a PA announcer and the questions involved there. So I love that you guys are giving feedback to us on these interviews. So thank you very much. So once again, the Stars score 8 goals, 3 in the first, 2 in the second, 3 in the third, 7 of those goals on special teams, as they win their third straight on the road. 7-1-1 now on the road. Best 9-game start in Dallas Stars history. And they win 8-3 tonight against the Minnesota Wild. Back at it again on Tuesday, and then against on Saturday. 2 more division opponents, the Coyotes and the Avalanche. So just wanted to give you a quick recap after this road trip, and we'll have lots of Spits and Suds this week as we continue to talk about this Dallas Stars team off to a red hot start. So thanks for listening, everybody. Once again, tell your friends to subscribe to Spits and Suds. We truly appreciate the support. That's going to do it for me, Gavin Spittle. Have a great day, everyone.